attempt to videotape a lesson. I just got an arm to hold my phone, so we'll see how this goes. What I'm working on now in this piece is I did very loose washes initially here and here, and then I'm going back in and putting in, oh here, you couldn't see that, could you? Here and here. I did a wash over the whole paper, and then a little darker, and then a little darker. See how the edges are very, very soft? That means I did the wash while the paper was still quite damp. And then while the paper was damp, went in and did washes in here, but they weren't technically washes. That's when most people say a wash, they mean putting a coat down over the whole thing. I was using my brush to delineate or capture the texture of what I was trying to paint, rather than doing each stroke of the tree. I did something like this to get the pattern going. Now this is darker than my initial one. There's about 4 layers of this on here. You can see very, very light in the background and wetter because they're softer edges, and then increasingly as paper dried, I get harder edges. The edges become harder. So this is sort of the last coat. See here where it moved because of the moisture in the paper, and it's moist out today, so the paper actually dries slower than it would on a very dry or windy day, for that matter. And look at how the building up of layers really gives depth to the woods, and that's something I like. I like a lot of depth in my watercolor on all my paintings. It's just something that intrigues me, is the layers of life. So here I'm just using my brush. My training in Asian ink painting brushwork comes in really handy, because in Asian ink painting, every brush stroke counts. Now I'm going to move my paper and look up here. Here I had done the wash on a sky. It went a little bit darker, and I started doing my brush stroke a little too soon, and it spread. But that's okay, because I'm going to go in and give it definition now with my brush like that. I wanted to build these trees a little bit taller for the sake of the composition. When you're doing a full painting, there's so many things you have to keep in mind and focused on. There's the overall composition, and then the specific marks that you're going to make all the way down to those details. And the danger I was running into was creating a geometric form here of a parallelogram or rectangle, which created dead space. And then it was also going to be doing that down here as well. So I brought this rock up a little bit. I might even bring it up a little bit more. See the difference that makes versus this? The focus, of course, is the tree. I've written a haiku to go with this painting about webbed branches. This was something I saw when my mom and I walked Jack in Schoodic the other day. All the colors up here are still fairly muted, but that's mean, except for our sunrises and sunsets, of course. So that's the lesson for today. Is multiple layers. Use your wet paper to when it's dry. Try to get brush strokes that emulate the texture you're trying to capture, rather than paint every little thing. If you're going to do that, go to oil. Watercolor's beauty is letting the water move the pigment. In the next lesson, we're going to do a quick one on how to use an Asian ink brush when doing Western watercolor. Thank you. Bye, y'all.